Hey guys, what is going on? My name is Thornton and welcome back to another video. Today we're taking a look at a keyboard from HK Gaming, which is called the GK61. Features optical switches as well as the ability to be able to hot swap them out for other optical switches, all for a nice, decent price as well. So stick around to hear about the features, build quality, performance, well, that's going to be worth that price and then right for you. You can find the GK61 on Amazon for between around $50 to $80, and the reason why that huge varying in price there is just going to be depending on which switch choice you make, as well as if there's a deal going on. So obviously depending on which switch choice, it's going to be either more expensive or take that price down a little bit. And these are again using optical switches, and they are gaterons, and with that you actually get quite a bit of choice there. You can choose between either the black, blue, brown, red, silver, and then also yellow gateron optical switches, so a good amount of selection there for you to choose from. In the box, besides getting your keyboard itself, you also do get that included braided USB-C cable, which is decent. So if you don't have one, you could obviously just use that one instead. A keycap and a switch puller because of that hot swap functionality. And then also an instruction pamphlet just to help you get started. And one thing that would have been nice to see that we don't get included would just been a little, maybe a sample box to try out some of those other gateron optical switches, because this board is hot swappable, so you had an idea of what you could get. Obviously it's not included though, it just would have been nice to see it. Starting off with the design and build quality of the GK61, this is in that 60% format, so obviously you're not getting those extra keys, a little bit more aimed towards gamers, I guess you could say. Like with most 60% keyboards though, you are still able to get access to those other functions that you're missing on this just by holding down your function key, and then you can see where they're laid on top of them with the secondary printing. One thing that I always hate missing out on is those arrow keys, but I really love how it's done here. Super easy to get access to them still. You have your function key, and then you have your secondary row of your arrow keys right next to it, so you can put your pinky on that function to get access to them. And then you have your other fingers freed up there to get access to those arrow keys very easily, which I appreciate. As far as the frame itself, like the build integrity of it, you get this pretty thick plastic case and then also aluminum top plate. And I have to say, super solid. Even when I'm putting this pressure on it here, no flex at all. So really nice, it does not feel like it's gonna be bending or breaking anytime soon. Really nice, chunky, and solid build overall. As far as USB-C port on the back, it is located on the left side, which is going to be nice for those of you who like to use those custom cables. I know sometimes it can be annoying if they put it in the middle or the right side, so it is on the left side if you like to have those coiled cables running left to right on your board. Taking a look at the bottom, you do get 4 rubber feet on it. I will say though that there is obviously no inclusion of a flip out leg, which is a little bit odd, so you can't get it into an incline if you're someone that really likes it, although the board itself does sit in a little bit of an incline already, which for me personally, I find it to be fine, and I'm so used to not using it with incline or having a wrist rest anymore that it's perfectly fine for me. But if it's something that's a deal breaker for you, something you really like having, just realize going into this, it does not have that included. The keycaps are an OEM profile, and they are double shot ABS, which is nice to see, and basically that just means that your main legends aren't going to be fading over time just because it is a completely separate layer of that molding of plastic underneath. As far as your secondary functions, so those are just laser etched in the keycaps. Those eventually are going to start shining and then wearing off, but that's way down the road. Not going to have to worry about that anytime soon, of course. And there is also a standard bottom row, so if you're someone that likes to pop on your own custom keycaps after you pick up the board, that's going to be easy to swap out with it being standard. For switches, again, these are using those optical gateron switches, and then depending on which switch choice you make when purchasing the board, you're going to get different actuation force as well as total travel distance, actuation distance, and all that good stuff. Again, hot swappable only with the optical switches though, so you're not going to be able to pop gaterons or Kales or cherry switches in here, just for those optical switches, but that is nice just having that functionality available for you. The board I have today is using their optical yellows, and these ones do have a 1mm to actuation, 3.2mm total travel, and then 35 centinewtons operation force, so really light to the touch. And already coming from a light actuation switch, it's not a big change for me, but if you're someone that's used to the more traditional, kind of heavy to press, maybe a tactile mechanical switch, this might be really hard for you at first, just getting all those mispresses because the keys actuate so lightly, so make sure you take that into consideration as well. Let's go ahead and hop into a sound test now, so you guys can hear them for yourselves. As you guys can hear from that sound test, the sound profile of this board is definitely pretty stinking loud, and some of that's just to do with the fact that there's definitely no foam or dampening to the sound in the board or the case itself, and then a lot of it is just to do with the design of the optical switches themselves. There's just, listen, just shaking the board. Like no other board I have does this. It's definitely just with the design of those optical switches and how they're placed in the board. Very comparable with other optical switch boards like from Razer as far as sound profile goes, but for me personally, it drives me crazy. I'm not a fan of that loud, and it's just pingy and loud and the plastic rubbing on each other in the switches themselves. It just does not feel good, and there is a decent amount of stem wobble on the keys. They just feel kind of loose. So as far as like build quality, it just feels, I don't know, just with the way the switches feel, it makes it kind of feel cheap. But again, looking at the benefits of optical switches and what you're getting with that, that's the reason why it feels like this. So it'd be nice to see it just feel a little bit more solid, but overall very comparable with other keyboards using the same, optical switches in the market. The stabs themselves on the board, I have to say, super underwhelming. I mean, I'll get a close-up of this too, but just running my finger across the spacebar, you can just see how uneven the stabilizer is, isn't it? Like not putting any pressure on it, just running my finger, it just tilts from side to side, which doesn't create for a good feel, and obviously you can hear that too in the case with just the unevenness and rattle to the stab itself. So overall, the sound profile, definitely the biggest downside of the board for me. The RGB on this board is nothing spectacular. You are able to switch between all the effects and like static colors and stuff like that on the board itself, which is nice to see, so you don't have to go into a software to do that. Nothing spectacular again, but for the price point, it's what you'd expect. And overall, that's just how I'd wrap this board up, honestly. I would just say it gives you what you'd expect, and if you're someone that's looking to get into those really high performance or optical switches for a keyboard, I would say this is a great budget option for what you're getting here. If you're someone that just wants to get into a mechanical keyboard or a smaller form factor keyboard, I would recommend just going with a normal, more standard mechanical keyboard. I think it just feels more solid and a little bit more well built out than this, even for around this same price point. I think you can get something a little bit better, but again, what we're looking at here is something different from that. These optical switches offer something that normal mechanical switches don't offer, so if that's something you're looking for, then obviously this is giving that to you, and I would definitely recommend it for the price point it's at, especially having that Hotswap functionality, which is really nice to see on this. So overall, gonna be a recommendation for me. Again, for those of you looking for the high performance optical switches, those of you just wanting a mechanical keyboard, I would look somewhere else. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you found the video helpful or informative, please do hit that like button for me, as it really helps me out. It only takes a click from you. And do consider subscribing, because I got more content coming on mice and keyboards and headset reviews coming up very soon. So definitely hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for those videos. And I'll see you guys in the next one.